Who are the 4 most loved talk show hosts and who are the 4 most hated?
The most difficult and obnoxious presenter I've ever worked with is James Corden.
But while all of the evidence points to James Corden as being a massive SOB, Graham Norton is always highlighted as being one of the best and most wholesome to ever do it. One of the main reasons why Norton is so loved is his rare ability to put celebrities at ease, leading to candid and often hilarious interviews. His blend of humor, comedic timing, and genuine interest in his guests creates a fun, lively atmosphere that feels natural and effortlessly draws in the audience.
What are you fear? What are you afraid of?
Well, I was gonna go with flying, but I think I'll go with
girls over 12.
One of the unique points of his talk show is that it often features multiple guests at once, leading to organic conversations and interactions that feel less scripted than most American talk shows. The format of this show also helps since the different guests can play off each other, like when Kevin Hart hilariously joined the conversation between Graham and Ice Cube after Graham joked that Ice Cube was Irish due to his real name being O'Shea.
Let me educate you something. Black people are notorious for picking things that they saw one day and say that's my baby name. I love to tell you, yes, it actually came from an Irish forefather that did this. That's not the case. His mother was reading the paper and she was eating some cereal and somebody in the back said, "Oh, Shay." She said that'd be a good name for the baby. And that's it. That's how it came.
Unlike many hosts who rely on scripted segments, Norton's interactions feel spontaneous and authentic, fostering genuine laughter and memorable moments. And this praise was echoed by one Reddit user who said, Graham will put an A-list actor, a sports person, a British comedian, and a random ass singer he found in a pub, and they will all have the best time and act like they've known each other for years. Graham knows when to insert himself into the conversation and when to keep quiet. With another user commenting on Graham's trolling of Emma Stone's Spice Girl obsession after Norton pretended like they were about to come out from backstage.
It is very rare for more than one Spice Girl to appear together for any reason at all. So, they're not here.
Looking down at the comments of the video, you can clearly see why they love him so much. If you play it back frame by frame, you can see the exact moments her heart breaks in two. Trolling skills, God level. But while Graham Norton has God level trolling skills, Jimmy Fallon is hated for having God level laughing skills. One of the main reasons Jimmy Fallon is heavily disliked by almost everyone is his overly enthusiastic and excitable demeanor, which leans closer to being disingenuous. His tendency to laugh at nearly every joke and his high energy interactions with guests can sometimes feel forced, leading to a perception that he lacks authenticity.
Damn you, can't you ever say no?
John, you know, Jimmy.
Stories about him is not so much a speech.
To react.
This tendency to giggle or seem overly impressed with his guests at just about anything can feel disingenuous to viewers and even his own guests, making it seem like he's more concerned with being liked rather than delivering a meaningful or challenging interview. He obviously reads jokes that were written and with zero flair. He talks over his guests. He overreacts to everything. I don't get it. He never lets his guests talk. He constantly hits the table while cackling so hard, it's ridiculous. He's just so over the top. It's too much. And that's why it was even more satisfying when Dakota Johnson called him out for constantly interrupting her.
Aren't you supposed to let people talk on the show?
Or the time when Taylor Swift complained that she couldn't finish her thoughts because Fallon kept talking too much.
So what I was saying is
You're not even looking at me.
Because I'm trying to think of what to say next.
Publicly, the audience has turned their backs on him. But even worse is what's going on behind the scenes. 16 current and former employees came out to say Fallon's erratic behavior had spoiled their dream of working on The Tonight Show. The accusations mentioned that the workplace was toxic, with Jimmy acting dismissive and irritable during production meetings. It got so bad that it became common knowledge behind the scenes that there are good Jimmy days and bad Jimmy days. After the backlash, Jimmy was forced to apologize to his staff, stating in a Zoom call that, "It's embarrassing and I feel so bad. Sorry if I embarrassed you and your family and friends. I feel so bad I can't even tell you." Although he never publicly apologized, this need to be liked has made him lose millions of viewers in the process. Recently, NBC cut The Tonight Show starring Jimmy Fallon to just 4 nights a week, And while his debut in 2014 drew 8.5 million viewers, as of 2024, that number has dropped to just 1.4 million average viewers.
But this is the greatest show on television because there is no host in late night that pretends to care the way you do.
But while Jimmy Fallon has been called out for not caring, Conan O'Brien is one of the most caring and loved talk show hosts of all time and does not seem to have even a single hater.
He's one of the greatest human beings you'll ever meet. He is so kind and so genuine.
His journey to becoming one of the most beloved talk show hosts began as a writer for Saturday Night Live and The Simpsons, where his unique comedic voice shone through in the SNL and Simpsons episodes. When he took over late night in 1993, many doubted the relatively unknown writer's ability to fill David Letterman's shoes, especially since his experience in front of camera amounted to about 45 seconds of airtime at that point in time.
And what is funny about Conan?
He's very generous as a performer. He's not looking to score at your expense, and he's just funny.
You see, part of the reason why Conan is so loved is that he is a master of self-deprecation, often turning the joke on himself. He uses this to disarm viewers and guests, and in the process humanizes himself. This is in stark contrast to other late night hosts like Jimmy Kimmel, who tend to joke at other people's expense. While Kimmel's humor can create tension and awkward moments, Conan's ability to play off others, especially his sidekick Andy Richter, keeps things light and balanced.
Do you float a lot in the ocean?
Sure. What do you sink? Might be that cast iron heart.
Conan's interviewing style allows guests to open up and relax. He takes the time to get to know his guests, offering them a comfortable space to express themselves, and doesn't mind rolling up his sleeves to give a great segment, such as the time Conan was drinking beer with Stone Cold, or when he was allowing himself to be wrapped up by a Burmese python with a crocodile hunter, Steve Irwin.
Oh God! Oh God!
And even behind the scenes, he is known for leading with kindness, paying his staff salaries out of his own pockets during the 2007 writer's strike, as well as continuing to film Conan during the pandemic using iPhones and no audience. And this is why there are thousands of subreddits and countless number of people talking about Conan just being awesome. Conan's actually super nice to his team in real life. That's what I love most about him. He does seem to be a genuinely nice boss. The fact that most of his staff has stayed with him since his early hosting days and through the whole NBC mess says a lot. He likes to poke fun at them, but you can tell that there's genuine love there. And this is confirmed in his segments where he acts like a mean boss, but you can clearly see in the body language that his staff love him and he treats them well behind the scenes. When David Letterman aired his final episode of The Late Show, Conan had one simple request for his audience.
Record us, but switch to Dave. Bye!
This gesture showed Conan's generosity and support even in a competitive industry. But this list would be incomplete without one of the meanest and most hated talk show hosts of all time, Ellen DeGeneres. We all know her as the fun-loving, be kind talk show host, or even for her role as the cute and cuddly Dory in Finding Nemo, but this carefully polished facade came crashing down when a tweet from Kevin T. Porter in 2020 opened the lid on what Ellen is really like behind the scenes. Respond to this with the most insane stories you've heard about Ellen being mean, and I'll match every one with $2 to LA Food Bank. And it didn't take long for thousands of comments to flood the Twitter thread. Working for her, I was instructed that I can't look at her in the eye and never ever say hi to her first. But don't worry, she definitely won't be saying hi to you in the first place. She creates the most toxic environments for her staff. Made a portrait of Oprah and it made it to the Ellen show, but didn't credit me at all. As a matter of fact, Ellen actually took the credit for the portrait herself.
Each one, hand done. I spent, I don't know, it took me months to do that thing.
But while she should have given that lady her credit, she had no right to pressure Mariah Carey into revealing her pregnancy by forcing Mariah Carey to drink alcohol in order to prove that she wasn't pregnant.
You're pregnant! You're pregnant! You're pregnant! No.
A short while later, Mariah suffered a miscarriage that had to be made public because of this interaction. This mean-spirited behavior filtered into the workplace, which is why dozens of employees came out to speak out against Ellen, including this former producer.
Toxic, phony, hypocrite, liar. That's what she is. We were told from the very beginning, don't talk to Ellen. Don't do this. You can't, go into her office.
Ellen came out with a weak corporate apology after being off air for about 14 weeks.
Other things. Sometimes I get sad. I get mad. I get anxious. I get frustrated. I get impatient. And I am working on all of that.
But it was too little too late, because in May 2022, after 19 seasons, Ellen's show was finally cancelled. But while Ellen has gained millions of haters, one talk show host who has absolutely zero haters is Arsenio Hall. Arsenio Hall made history as the first African American to host a major late night talk show and brought a fresh, energetic vibe to the format. Although he's not as active as he was back in the day, the Arsenio Hall was especially popular amongst younger and more diverse audiences in the late 1980s and early 1990s. Hall was known for his fun, informal style and his ability to make guests feel comfortable. Throughout his show, he created a platform for a lot of compelling themes, topics, musicians, and well-known iconic TV moments, like the time he had Bill Clinton playing the saxophone back in the day. His guests included iconic figures like Mike Tyson and Muhammad Ali, and even the beloved TV legend Mr. Rogers from Sesame Street made an appearance. Arsenio also showcased his acting talent in the hit film Coming to America, where he portrayed Semi, the loyal but slightly materialistic friend and servant to Eddie Murphy's character, Prince Akeem. One of the most iconic moments in his show, which cemented him into legend status, was the time he was called out by Queer Nation live on his talk show. During an episode that aired on December 14th, 1990, 4 members of Queer Nation, an LGBTQ organization founded to combat anti-gay violence and prejudice in the arts and media, were seated in the back row of different sections of the audience and interrupted Hall in the middle of the show's opening monologue. They questioned him on why there had not been any openly gay guests featured on the show. Hall decided to stand his ground and handle the situation head-on, walking to the audience and saying,
"Well, there are a lot of gay guests who really don't like to talk about their sexual preference, so we don't know whether they're gay or not. This ain't Merv. You didn't think I'd run from this, did you? This ain't Johnny. I ain't gonna run from it. I'm gonna deal with it."
Hall then asked which gay guests they would like to see on the show that hadn't been on. 2 individuals responded with professional football player Eric Kramer and film director Gus Van Sant Jr., a prominent filmmaker in the new Queer Nation cinema movement. Hall then responded,
"I don't know Gus Van Sant, but I know Elton John. He's been here and he's rocked the house."
A member then followed up with actor and playwright Harvey Fierstein.
"When Harvey has something I'm interested in, I'll bring him on the show. But this is my show, okay? You think I haven't had somebody on the show because they're gay? What's wrong with you, man?"
The audience supported Hall the entire time as he proceeded back to the stage and finished off the protester with one last jab.
"I don't want to hear that gay trash, man. I got gay friends I've had on the show. Because you don't know them or it ain't who you want on the show, you got a problem with it? If you want to book it, get yourself a show."
It's moments like this which make Arsenio one of the most loved talk show hosts ever, which is in stark contrast to one of the most egotistical and self-centered men in Hollywood, James Corden, who has slowly developed one of the worst reputations in media history. When he first came onto the screen, he initially charmed audiences with his cute, teddy bear-like persona and comedic timing. But as time went on, Corden's reputation began to sour as stories of his off-camera behavior started to emerge. Many former colleagues and fans started to accuse him of being rude, arrogant, and dismissive when the cameras weren't rolling. These accounts have painted a starkly different picture of Corden, contrasting sharply with his on-screen persona. You see, before moving to the US to host a Late Late Show, James Corden put in excellent performances on the British TV show Gavin and Stacey, which led him to win the British equivalent of an Oscar. But winning this award is where his rude and obnoxious nature would begin to surface for everyone to see, and gave him an ego boost that would eventually spiral out of control. It got so bad that he admitted to needing therapy after becoming intoxicated with fame, and he later said, "It's so intoxicating, that first flash of fame, and I think it's even more intoxicating if you're not bred for it. I started to behave like a brat that I just don't think I am." And this bratty behavior was evident at the Glamour Woman of the Year Awards, where James was caught texting while award recipients were speaking. This led to an onstage confrontation with Sir Patrick Stewart, who called him out for being disinterested during the event.
When the presenters are up here and when the recipients are receiving their awards, don't stand at the back of the stage with your hands in your pockets, looking around as though you wished you were anywhere but here.
Instead of apologizing, Corden doubled down and escalated the tension.
Sorry, I'm waiting for the punchline. Go on. No, seriously, go on.
Okay.
No, go on.
And his inflated ego wasn't just apparent with celebrities, because during one of the most brutal rated Ask Me Anythings, James was met with a barrage of questions calling out his bad behavior. Hey James, you won't remember me, but me and my friend sat at a table next to you and Harry Styles plus some others in Manchurian Legends in London's Chinatown about 6 years ago. We didn't bother you, but you were a massively entitled cunt who yelled and treated the waitstaff like shit, and when one of my party politely suggested you calm down, you got really aggressive and threatening. So my question is this, why did Harry seem so cool while you were such a massive throbbing bellend? Why are you, James, such a deeply unpleasant person? Did your parents raise you that way? Hi James, I have never met anyone who actually likes you. Have you ever met anyone who actually likes you? And even when it came to his most famous segment, Carpool Karaoke, his ego still managed to get in the way. What started off as a fun, spontaneous ride with celebrities quickly became an excuse for James to take the shine over his guests and do more of the singing himself. And to make it worse, it turns out that the whole thing was fake and a cheap way to trick his own audience. A tweet went viral showing that James Corden wasn't actually driving the vehicle during the show, but rather that it was being pulled around on a trailer. With all these issues, it's no wonder when you search James Corden online, you will come across an endless number of videos and Reddit posts talking about how shitty he is as a person. Which is in stark contrast to the person that he replaced on the Late Late Show, Craig Ferguson, who is someone that often gets left out of the conversation of GOAT talk show hosts, but no one ever has a bad word to say about him as a person. Ferguson stood apart from other hosts due to his uncanny ability to conduct interviews in a natural, genuine way. He was able to consistently bring out the best comedy and storytelling from his guests. He was also able to laugh when appropriate, unlike Jimmy Fallon.
How do you think I got this job?
One of the most remarkable things about Ferguson's show was that he did not have a live, on-air sidekick like other late-night hosts. While Conan had Andy Richter, Jimmy Kimmel had Guillermo, and Jimmy Fallon had Steve Higgins, Ferguson relied on puppets and a skeleton. He basically carried the entire show by himself every single night, and the audience loved and respected him for it. And unlike other hosts who stick to scripted interactions, Ferguson improvised a lot, creating genuinely funny moments for both his guests and the audience. His constant improv kept his jokes fresh as they were spontaneous and off the cuff. Most of the late night talk show hosts these days are essentially the same jokes repeated night after night, week after week.
For the iPhone X is it can recognize faces, which that's going to be a problem here in Los Angeles.
The face recognizing camera called Face ID, which is a great feature unless you live in Hollywood and you have to buy a new phone every time you buy a new face.
President Trump this morning denied there is chaos in the White House. You can always get a job writing fortune cookies.
Trump would be dope at writing fortune cookies.
Which is rough for him because he's totally into streaming.
Ultimate punishment for R. Kelly. No more streaming.
But it wasn't just the jokes, because when he needed to, he was also able to be serious, like the time he took a stand on the media's constant abuse of Britney Spears' personal problems at the time. And this was at a time before we all knew what was truly going on with her.
It's not a joke, you know, it stops being funny. What the hell is that? You know, and I'm starting to feel uncomfortable about making fun of these people. And it looks to me a little bit, Britney Spears has a similar problem going on with alcohol. This woman has 2 kids. She's 25 years old. She's a baby herself. It's embarrassing to admit you're an alcoholic. It's embarrassing.
His final monologue was befitting of how unique his show had been for its entire duration.
What I was trying to do here, and what I think that we've managed to do here, is make something that wasn't here before.
But while most of the hated hosts on this list are just simply rude, Matt Lauer stands out as the most sleazy and worst scumbag of them all. Matt Lauer spent nearly 20 years on the Today Show, but sadly, that's the only notable thing about him. And unfortunately for his victims, it took the same amount of time for him to finally get exposed.
You co-hosted the Today Show with Matt Lauer for 15 years. What is Matt's most annoying habit?
He pinches me on the ass a lot.
When you type Matt Lauer in the YouTube search bar, you're greeted with an avalanche of videos basically telling you how much of a creep this man was. His long tenure as the co-anchor of the Today Show was overshadowed by allegations of sexual misconduct that led to his firing in 2017. It was these allegations around the time Me Too was picking up steam that eventually brought him down, but when you actually took at some of his on-camera behavior, it's incredible how nobody picked this up even earlier. The only person who seemed to be aware of this behavior was Conan O'Brien, who created a hilarious skit just 3 years before Lauer was fired.
Schiffrin won a world championship at the tender age of 17. Now she's 18. Everybody talks about how young you are, but you are no novice. You are a force.
Thank you. It's nice talking to you.
You too.
He might have been able to explain himself in that situation, but when it comes to his former co-host Ann Curry, his creepiness was clear for everyone to see. Curry became Lauer's co-host in June 2011, but only lasted a year. In an interview with Elle, Curry admitted that she didn't really know why she was fired after just 1 year, and even speculated that it was because she told management that they needed to keep an eye on Matt Lauer and how he deals with women, after a colleague confided in her about his alleged inappropriate behavior. Speaking about her firing, she said, "I know I did nothing wrong. I know I was good at my job. The bottom line is that it still hurts. It honestly hurts really deeply because I really think I did nothing wrong." And you can see how creepy this scumbag is when you look at Curry's last day on the job.
Most importantly, you've made us better, and we thank you from the bottom of our hearts.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you so much.
But probably one of the most cringeworthy and hated interviews where he couldn't even contain himself anymore was when he was lusting after Sandra Bullock to her face during her appearance on the Today Show to promote The Proposal.
The major thing that's changed since you were here last?
Yes.
I have now seen you naked.
And I'm so sorry about that.
I have seen you naked.
Were you able to sleep afterwards? Why are you looking down?
It's now my screensaver.
Why did you look down
I
when
was
you said
looking
that?
at my notes.
Not your notes
no,
were over here.
They were right there.
That would be this.
They
You
were
went
right
like that.
there. I didn't go like this.
He continues to pester her about the movie and her being naked in the movie and can't seem to let it go, even going as far as joking that the scene was his new screensaver.
You're naked for most of this movie.
I saw
And towards the end, he decides to bring it up yet again.
Did I mention you have a nude scene in this movie?
Pretty much from the time you opened your mouth. Yeah.
Sandra Bullock, come back more often.
No, not after this interview.
In the 7 years since he was fired, Lauer has completely withdrawn from the public eye and now lives on his farm in New Zealand.